It's been called the greatest film never to win Best Picture. A movie that bombed at the box office, but found immortality through word of mouth and cable television. A story so deeply layered that even after dozens of viewings, fans are still discovering new details. The Shawshank Redemption. For millions of movie lovers, this tale of hope, friendship, and redemption ranks as one of the greatest films ever made. But what if I told you that beneath its familiar surface lies a world of secrets that even the most dedicated fans have never uncovered? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on Shawshank's most closely guarded mysteries. Revelations straight from the cast and crew who brought this beloved story to life. The hidden meanings, the on-set tensions, the symbolic details placed throughout the film that completely transform how you understand Andy Drain's journey. These aren't casual trivia facts. These are the profound insights that the actors themselves have revealed over the years. Revelations that unlock entirely new ways of seeing a film you thought you knew by heart. From Morgan Freeman's surprising confessions about his iconic character Red to Tim Robbins' secret techniques that brought Andy Dufresne to life to the deleted scenes that would have given the film an entirely different meaning. This is the untold story of Shawshank. And I promise you this, by the time we're done, you'll never see the Shawshank Redemption the same way again. The film that almost wasn't. Before we dive into the cast's revelations, we need to understand something remarkable. The Shawshank Redemption almost never made it to theaters at all. When Frank Darabont first approached Stephen King about adapting his Nala, Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption, King was skeptical, not because he doubted Darabont's talent, but because the story seemed impossible to film. It was too internal, too psychological. But what few people know is that King ultimately sold the rights to Darabont for just $1. Yes, you heard that right. One single dollar. It was what King called his Dollar Baby program, where he would allow promising filmmakers to adapt his shorter works for a token payment. Tim Robbins revealed in a 25th anniversary interview that this gesture by King created an unusual freedom on set. We weren't making a big-budget blockbuster with studio executives hovering over every scene, Robbins explained. Frank had this remarkable creative control because, frankly, the stakes weren't seen as that high. Morgan Freeman added, "It's ironic. The film that would go on to be ranked #1 on IMDb for years started as almost an afterthought for Hollywood. Columbia Pictures barely knew what to do with it. This strange beginning set the stage for what would become one of Hollywood's most unlikely success stories. A film that took the roundabout path to greatness, much like its protagonist, Andy Dufresne. The prison that made Shawshank. One of the most crucial elements in creating the film's authentic atmosphere was the decision to shoot at the Ohio State Reformatory in Mansfield, Ohio. This massive imposing structure had been closed in 1990 due to inhumane conditions just 4 years before filming began. What the cast has revealed in subsequent interviews is how profoundly this real prison affected their performances. Clancy Brown, who played the brutal Captain Hadley, admitted, "There was something that happened to all of us when we walked through those gates each morning. You could feel the decades of misery in those walls. It wasn't something you had to act. The prison wasn't just a backdrop. It became a character in the film." Tim Robbins would sometimes sit alone in the cells between takes, absorbing the claustrophobic reality of incarceration. Those cells were tiny, 6 by 8 feet, Robbins noted in a 2019 interview. When you stood in one and the door closed, something primal happened in your brain. The panic was real. What fans may not realize is that many of the extras in the film were actually former inmates of that very prison. Director Frank Darabont wanted authentic reactions during the yard scenes and mess hall sequences, so he hired men who had actually served time there. Their weathered faces and knowing glances weren't acting. They were reliving their own experiences. This dedication to authenticity extended to every aspect of the production. The production team even aged the walls of the prison differently for scenes set in different decades, gradually making them cleaner as the film moved backward in time, a subtle detail most viewers never consciously noticed. Freeman later remarked that this attention to reality changed his approach to Red. "I wasn't playing a prisoner in a movie set. I was playing a man who had spent decades in that specific hellhole. There's a difference. The characters behind the characters." What many viewers don't realize is that each of the main actors developed extensive backstories for their characters, details never explicitly mentioned in the film, but which informed every gesture, every line reading. Morgan Freeman revealed that he created an entire criminal history for Red that went far beyond the film's brief mention of his murder conviction. In my mind, Red was a man who ran numbers in the black community, probably in the late 30s or early 40s. He was someone who had power on the outside and lost it all. That's why he's so good at getting things inside. He was always a fixer, always knew who to talk to and how to make things happen. This background explained Red's unique position in Shawshank and his immediate recognition of something different in Andy Dufresne. Red sees Andy and thinks, here's another man who had position and lost it all. There's a recognition there. Tim Robbins took an even more unusual approach to building Andy Dufresne. I actually created two separate characters, Robbins explained in a director's commentary. There was the Andy that everyone at Shawshank saw, careful, methodical, somewhat aloof. And then there was the real Andy, the one we only get glimpses of, the one digging through the wall at night. This dual personality informed Robbins' performance in subtle ways most viewers never consciously register. When Andy is in his public persona, Robbins kept his body stiff, his gestures minimal. But in private moments, like when he plays the opera music over the prison speakers, his body language becomes more fluid, more natural. It's a shift so subtle that most viewers feel it without seeing it. Perhaps most fascinating is James Whitmore's approach to playing Brooks Hatland, the elderly librarian whose inability to adjust to outside life leads to his suicide. Whitmore revealed that he based the character on his own father who had suffered from depression in his later years. The scene where Brooks feeds the birds wasn't in the original script, Whitmore noted. I suggested it because my father used to do that in the park after my mother died. There was such profound loneliness in that simple act. This personal connection gave Brooks's brief but crucial storyline an emotional depth that resonates far beyond its screen time. It's just one example of how the actors infused their characters with pieces of real life that transformed Shawshank from a prison drama into something far more human.